Okay, I'm going to start this video off with just a couple clips of the back-to-back stuff that I keep talking about, how they're doing in a lot of the Warriors games, at least since the All-Star week. They might have been doing it before. I need to go back and check. But I just recorded the last two games where they played the Grizzlies and got their 71st win, and also the Spurs when they got their 72nd win. And just listen to how many times they just nonchalantly mention back-to-back. And I think either what they're doing is that they're subliminally programming everyone to think that the Warriors are going to win back-to-back, and then they're going to disappoint them in the finals. That could be a possibility. What I think they're actually doing is they're just showing off like they always do. They're putting this right in front of you, and people don't even realize it. You know, it's just kind of their little joke. They're telling us Warriors are going to win back-to-back without really coming out and saying it, you know. It's just their little clues. But who knows, you know, I could be wrong, but just check out these clips here.
It's been a record-setting season. The Warriors, by the numbers, they have never had back-to-back losses this season. No team has ever done that. Meanwhile, the most three-quarters made by far by a team in NBA history. They're one away from tying the most road wins. The Bulls team of 95-96 won 33 road games, and now just the second team in NBA history to win 70 games. They're free to play. Barnes coming off his two best games scoring-wise, back-to-back 20-point plus first time this season. Right now he's the lone starter out there. Cesar Flores Diao in the middle. Game in San Antonio earlier this season. Stevenson back-to-back turnovers. Just Stevenson, you got to put the ball on the floor, think and score rather than make it play, and allow it to develop as you go in. That's back-to-back mistakes. Final seconds, Curry, three-quarters court. The first down. He'll be pushing a lot of buttons and stuff right now. Go out, play with pride, let's take care of our business. They got a tough back-to-back tomorrow night, so as tough as you think tonight is, tomorrow night's going to be that much tougher.
At San Antonio, who wins this game?
Golden State will win. Golden State Warriors. And drives in, spins, layup, banks it in. Back-to-back buckets from Zach Randolph, and it's up to 5. I was wrong.
All right, let's watch the Spurs game here.
If they switch, then they still have another screen coming.
This is how you know it's a back-to-back. Steph normally plays the whole first quarter. And Draymond the same. Yet they're being subbed out inside.
This late in the season, or even cover. Go upstairs.
See a Curry flurry. So Steph's got 17 back-to-back threes. A 2-point ball game in San Antonio inside Ethan. Down here to San Antonio, back into a back-to-back. Late in the season. Minutes into the fourth.
Yep.
So he had some legs and had a little burst to be closer.
How about they go back-to-back night?
Warriors have had some good two-game road trips this year. At Memphis, then go to Minnesota 2 games. At New Orleans and Houston 2 games. At Memphis, San Antonio 2 games. A lot of flying, a lot of air miles, and a lot of distance to play 2 games on a back-to-back. Both games in San Antonio have been on the back end of a back-to-back. And the Warriors, amazing history, a minute 24. Stephen Curry on the back end of a back-to-back with 37 points in San Antonio.
Warriors, you know, it sounds cliche, but they just find a way. The second of a tough back-to-back, they get it done on the road, and they have 72 wins. They're on the brink of being defensively.
for them to do what they did on back-to-back nights to break the streak of what the Golden State team had never done, breaking through, and Tim Duncan there.
This journey to execute, to concentrate, to play back-to-back, to not lose to the teams you're supposed to beat.
You know, what the circumstances, you try to find a way to get it done. Like tonight, I mean, back-to-back, time like the end of the season against a great team that
Laces strength.
Golden State Warriors still have not lost back-to-back games this season. They're also 18-2, the second of a back-to-back. And as for the San Antonio Spurs, let's talk about them. Bones, you made a great point. The second of a back-to-back. And as for the San Antonio Spurs, let's talk about them. Bones, you made a great point. This is a 65-win team. They've already lost 3 in a row. And they're 1-3 against Golden State, which seems to now have the secret recipe.
Well, they hadn't lost back-to-back games either all year long until this 3-game losing streak, which in itself for Golden State, that Danny and I talked about it. That's impossible. I mean, it really is insane. That's impossible. I mean, it really is insane to not lose back-to-back.
Absolutely crazy.
But back to your point about the San Antonio Spurs, Vince.
So you get the point. They've been doing it in like every game. I notice it in every game. It's not just all about back-to-back games. It's like back-to-back threes, back-to-back turnovers. They just keep mentioning back-to-back over and over and over. Also, one other thing I never caught before, listen to what he says here. That they're 18-2 on the second game of a back-to-back.
This season, they're also 18-2, the second of a back-to-back.
Which, interesting, because back-to-back even equals 182 in Jewish gematria. Also interesting, it equals 69, though, in simple gematria, which sticks out because Cleveland Cavaliers equals 69. Also, the small way back-to-back equals 24. I talked about this in a couple videos back, but 24 equals 1881. And I mean, I've talked about all these sports games, but like it really doesn't matter who wins. These games are coded to other events that are going on in the world that actually do matter, and that's the whole point of exposing these rigged games. And I mean, 1881 just sticks out because of that is the year that Gray County was founded, with where the Amtrak wreck in Kansas was, but also it's the same year that James Garfield, the 20th president, was assassinated. He died 79 days after getting shot at a train station. And there has been a ton of foreshadowing to Obama being assassinated. They've done all the Abraham Lincoln stuff, the theater shootings. Obama even names the Thanksgiving turkeys Honest and Abe, and tons of other stuff I've shown previously. So just interesting, that really sticks out to me, especially with ever since Obama's been in office, we started getting all these really significant Amtrak derailments. So anyway, once again, the reason that I noticed the back-to-back theme was because of the All-Star Week, and last year the All-Star Week was connected to the finals as well. The Warriors won 122 days after Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day was when the slam dunk contest was. I talked about how it's connected to Teen Wolf and all kinds of stuff. But moral of the story, Zach LaVine and Russell Westbrook both won back-to-back MVP and also slam dunk contest in the All-Star Week. So a lot of foreshadowing to back-to-back is when I first noticed it. But they both played at UCLA, where the Kansas train was coming from, or was coming from Los Angeles. That equals 222 in gematria. Amtrak also equals 222. 222 has been really significant with the Warriors. They picked up Anderson Varejao on February 22nd, 222. He was dropped from Portland. They picked him up 3 days later after they got blown out by Portland on 219. Varejao is wearing number 18 for the Warriors. They played Portland again 18 days later on 3/11. 3/11 to the NBA Finals is 2 months, 22 days, also 83 days. And there's more to it than that, but I mean, just a short example. Also, Elton Brand came out of retirement 146 days later to the 76ers. He was born on 3/11. 113, Michael Jordan equals 113. Kobe Bryant equals 113. Steph Curry wears number 30, which is the 30th prime is 113. Anyway, Elton Brand, like I said, went to the 76ers, who the Warriors are connected to. Born in 79, the Pope is 79, born on 3/11. He came back on 1/4, the same day the Cavs became 23-9. But they won with a total score of 222 points. Golden State equals 122, just like the amount that they scored. 100, what the Raptors scored equals 108, just like Golden State Warriors. So interesting, both of these numbers connected to Golden State. Also, the total score even connected to Golden State. 222 the day they picked up Varejao. Even 101 days, or also 3 months, 11 days before the NBA Finals. Philadelphia equals 101. Interesting to point out, Philadelphia, to be pretty much, if you look back in history, Philadelphia is all about the beginning of the United States and whatnot. National Basketball Association equals 1776. So, interesting. That's why Philadelphia super coded. Also interesting about 100. When the Warriors beat the Grizzlies for their 71st win, the Warriors scored 100 points. Memphis, or the Grizzlies, scored 99. Golden State Warriors equals 99. And in the game, with 1 minute left, Draymond Green scored the 100th point. So with 1 minute left, they scored 100 points. The game was on April 9th, 4/9, which just so happened to be the 100th day of the year in 2016. So on the 100th day of the year, Draymond Green scores the 100th point with 1 minute left in the fourth, a lot like 100. 4/9, Warriors also equals 49 the small way. Also, the total score of this game, 199. The 46th prime is 199. Talked a lot about 46 in regards to Chicago. Chicago equals 46. The Super Bowl was coded to the 85 Bears, who won 46-10 in the 1980 and Super Bowl 20. They were using the new at the time revolutionary 4-6 defense. Also, 199, just a super significant day in regards to September 19th. I've talked about this day a lot with YouTube showing me this day. It's the 262nd day, September 19th is. Lots of other stuff with it, even tied into Nancy Reagan. But anyway, James Garfield, the president who I said was shot at a train station, then died 79 days later in 1881. He was only president for 199 days. Then he died on September 19th, 19/9. If you write out September 19th, it equals 91. Pope Francis also began his trip to the United States. That he went to Cuba first. He went on 9/19. So interesting. Also, Obama goes to Cuba. Then we get the Belgium attacks. And remember, the power went out in the first game of the World Series at 9:19 p.m. and it came back on at 9:23. So anyway, also, when the Warriors beat the Grizzlies, their record became 71-9. 719 is the 128th prime. The guy who founded Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, William Penn, equals 128. Pennsylvania even became a state on a date numerology of 128. I've talked about this before as well. I got a whole video on the date of August 12th, how it's a super significant day in regards to the 71 and World War I and World War II. And maybe I'll leave a link to that in the description so you can check it out. There's a whole lot of interesting numbers in that video. This year will even be the 71 years after the end of World War II. Also, Matt Barnes had a really good game in this game. It's just funny how he used to be a Warrior and he tied the all-time Warrior 3-point records in one game with 7, and now we have the Splash Brothers and whatnot. But then Barnes' record was broke by Jason Richardson, another former Golden State Warrior who I talked about, who retired last year on 9/23, the same day that Pope Francis went to the White House at 9/23 on 9/23. He arrived in the United States on his 923rd day as being the Pope. Matt Barnes in Gematria equals 113. He even scored the Warriors' final points. He got the 99 points for them with a minute 13 left in the fourth. He also wears number 22. The 79 is the 22nd prime. Talked a lot about that with Pope Francis and whatnot. Champion equals 79. Lincoln equals 79. 923 equals 79. Also interesting, too, that he went to college at UCLA, where Russell Westbrook went, where Zach LaVine went. UCLA equals 222, just like Amtrak. He also turned 36 on the 69th day of the year. Just interesting because Cleveland Cavaliers equals 69. Lots of death around 69 this year. The Warriors are also responsible pretty much for the death of Kobe Bryant. And then if they beat the streak tonight, it'll also be kind of like the death of Michael Jordan. In a way, you know? So the next night was on 4/10. And the Warriors defeated the Spurs to get their 72nd win. They scored 92 points. Warriors win back-to-back equals 92. The Warriors broke the Spurs home game win streak and made the Spurs 39-1 at home. If you write out 39-1, it equals 87, a number I've talked about in regards to Pope Francis and how it connects to 219. August 7th, 8/7 is the 219th day. Back-to-back championships equals 219. A bunch of other stuff with it, but just interesting. 39-1, 87, 39-1, home record equals 146. A number I've also talked about in connection to Philadelphia. It's also this year, June 14th, 14/6 will be Donald Trump's 70th birthday. This is the 70th season of the NBA. It's also Pope Francis's 1,189th day as Pope. The Spurs went into that game with 65 wins. Philadelphia, the small way, equals 65. It was also 65 days before June 14th. Also, April 10th is the 101st day of the year. Philadelphia, the big way, equals 101. And remember, in the last game where the Warriors defeated the Spurs, on April 7th, the Spurs had 101 points. Also, this game was 22 days after the last time that the Warriors played the Spurs at home, and they lost 87-79. 22, once again, the 22nd prime is 79. The Warriors lost with 79 points on the 79th day of the year. Also, all time, they've played 160 games. The Spurs have won 104, the Warriors 56. Super interesting, 56, all about Philadelphia, and also significant events in regards to false flags and whatnot. Adolf Hitler equals 56, Saddam Hussein equals 56, Osama bin Laden equals 56, ISIS equals 56, Paris, France equals 56, the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia with 56 signers, the first being John Hancock, who even died at the age of 56. Interesting, the Spurs had 104 wins, though. The game was on April 10th, which can be written as 10/4, which I'll talk a little bit more in a second, but in the game, the announcers even tell us that the last time that the Spurs played them at home and they beat them, the Splash Brothers were limited to 2 of 19 in the game. On three-pointers, 2 of 19. Back-to-back championships equals 219. LeBron James didn't play. The season is 219 days to the NBA Finals. It even began on the same day Philadelphia turned 333 years old. The Kansas train wreck was 219 days before the NBA Finals. There's just lots of 219 connections. The Warriors lost to Portland on February 19th, which was 104 days before the finals began. That game also gave the Warriors their first loss after winning 24 away games, so they were 24-1 at home. In the beginning of the season, remember they won 24 games in a row before they losing to the Bucks, making them 24-1 overall. I talked about how it is in regards to the X theme, but it also connected to Kobe Bryant, who wears number 24, who announced his retirement just a couple weeks before. Jeff Gordon even announced his retirement. Jeff Gordon drove car number 24. I've talked about this and whatnot. Also, the Broncos had 24 points in the Super Bowl, so interesting. There's a lot to do with 53 as well. 241 is the 53rd prime. 222 is when they got Anderson Varejao was the 53rd day. If you write out 53, it equals 122. Just like Pope Francis, just like Golden State. Anyway, in this game, I saw this stat they gave right when the second quarter began, that the Spurs were 9 of 23 shooting in the first quarter, and I had a good feeling the Spurs weren't going to win after I saw that. Seems like it's just not a good thing unless you're the Golden State Warriors. It's not really a good thing to be connected to the 923. LeBron James even equals 923, a Jewish gematria. He lost last year. Who knows, he shot 9 of 23 this year. It leaves me at a standstill because I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing for him. Also in this game, the Warriors hadn't won a game in San Antonio since Valentine's Day of '97. There was also 33 games that they hadn't won, so this was the 34th. I've talked a lot about the 34 connection to 923. The Warriors ended up winning and so they won on the 34th time they played up, just like when they played the Cavs on 118 and they beat them by 34 points, 34 games after LeBron was 9 of 23. They also beat the Lakers by 34, the first game of the season that they played each other. I'm telling you, all of this is connected to Kobe Bryant in some weird way. Kobe Bryant even played his started his 1,189th game on Easter. He's from Philadelphia, drafted to Charlotte, where Michael Jordan owns now. Tons of other stuff, but he tore his Achilles age 34, blah, blah, blah. I talked about that before. But tonight is Kobe Bryant's last game ever as well, which is super interesting. He's played 65 games this season. Literally, this will be his 66th game of the season. The Lakers right now have a 16-65 home record. So it's Kobe Bryant's 66th game this season. If they lose, they'll have 66 losses. So it really makes me wonder if they're going to leave it, make them win, and give them 65 losses to keep up with the Philadelphia, or if they're going to give them their 17th win, because 17 super connected to the Los Angeles Lakers. I'll even write it out here in gematria, 17. There was lots of 17 too. When the Lakers beat the Warriors, they beat them by 17 points. It was on the 66th day of the year even. I don't know why my mouse keeps doing that. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to hurry here. 37-109. Write out Los Angeles. Los Angeles equals 37. And also 109. What in the world is going on? Who knows? My mouse is going crazy. I must have clicked on one of these, but Michael Jordan equals 113. Kobe Bryant 113. They're playing the Utah Jazz tonight. That equals 113. Also in regards to Kobe Bryant's 1,189th game, or start, I keep saying game, but start, Easter was the day that he did that, and Easter was 17 days ago. So, I don't know. I wonder if they're going to give the Lakers their 17th win in regards to all the 17 stuff, or if they're going to make them lose and give them 66 and Kobe's 66th game and whatnot. I mean, just look at this stuff too. Kobe Bryant's listed as 6'6". The year after he came back, or he tore his Achilles versus Golden State, he only played 6 games or whatever. Interesting too, he only played 3,013 minutes that season. Pope Francis became the Pope on 3/13 of 2013. So 30 days after Pope Francis becomes the Pope, Kobe Bryant tears his Achilles after playing 3,013 minutes. Anyway, in regards to the 66, though, like I said, he's listed as 6'6" tall even. He came back 34 weeks later and he only played 6 games. Interesting, the next season he played 35 games. And when he came back for the 6 games, he was age 35. But this connects to, the 35 connects to the game, the Warriors versus the Spurs, when the Warriors got their 72nd win. The score was 35-35 at halftime. Also, believe it or not, that same night, Kobe Bryant scored 35 points against the Houston Rockets. I mean, what are the odds of that? He scores 35 points. The Lakers' away record became 5-35, 53-35, the Mirrors. Also interesting, 3-5 this year was the 65th day of the year. Just interesting. I don't know what the 35 really stands for, other than I've talked about the 53 being coded to the Warriors and whatnot. And 53 and 35 are the Mirrors and whatnot. So, don't really know. Just interesting it connects to Philadelphia, though. Maybe that's part of it. So, I guess, we'll see what happens tonight in the game against the Utah Jazz, but I guess it could really go either way. But the reason that it sticks out so much, too, like in regards to 35, they joked about it, the score being 35-35. If you just turned into this game, then no, it's not actually a college game going on. It's an NBA game, blah, 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 blah. So they were letting you know all about the college game again, that Villanova won. Villanova is like 15 minutes away from where Kobe Bryant went to high school in Philadelphia. Villanova equals 108. Golden State Warriors equals 108. They beat North Carolina, Michael Jordan's team, which even sticks out even more to me because, it's a weird twist because the capital of the country, Jordan, used to be Philadelphia until the year 106 AD, and then it was later destroyed by earthquakes. So, I've been talking a lot about Philadelphia earthquake and whatnot, so don't know if it's ever going to happen, but they sure seem to be coding a lot of stuff with earthquakes in regards to Philadelphia. So also on 4/11 then, the Lakers lost to Oklahoma City Thunder 79-112. The Lakers got their 65th loss then. Champion equals 79. Champion connected to Philadelphia. Well, look, Oklahoma City, if you can see that, their home record, 32-9, the 923 backwards. When the Lakers beat the Warriors, the Lakers scored 112 points, just like Oklahoma City Thunder. The Lakers stayed on 51 losses, which makes you think about the Cleveland Cavs and whatnot. But also Philadelphia, as I pointed out, Pope Francis was, or 1915 was 101 years ago, 1951 is 65 years ago, so the 51 and 15 connect to Philadelphia as well. Also in this game, Oklahoma City Thunder got 55 wins. Remember, when the Lakers beat the Warriors, they had a record of 55-5. So, I mean, when you think about it, it could be the 112 beats the champion, which was Golden State Warriors. But I think it's like a reverse of that, only for the fact that 112 is special because Chicago Bulls equals 112. In the game on 4/7, the Warriors beat the Spurs 112-101, connecting to the Chicago Bulls and also Philadelphia. If you add up this score too, it equals 191, just like Society of Jesus. Pope Francis, the first pope to be a Jesuit, the Society of Jesus. 191 also super significant. I've talked a lot about the 91 and how 91 deals with elimination. I've never seen it with anything really positive. But in Gematria, if you write out Ghostbusters 2, where they say the end of the world is going to be on Valentine's Day 2016, it equals 191. The word 91 equals 121, just like Revelation, just like Valentine's. So super interesting. Also, if you write out Valentine's Day, it equals the 151. The 15 and 51 stuff I've been talking about. 2016 is also the 151st anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's death. Last year, the Warriors won 122 days after Valentine's Day. Golden State equals 122. But anyway, let's move on. It's really long here. The Amtrak wrecks were also connected to the number 34 as I sat down and thought about it. The first was on 314 in Kansas, the 34th state. The second in Chester, Pennsylvania on April 3rd, which can also be written as 3-4 or 4-3. So 34 and 34. Talked about all these 34s previously in regards to the 923. One thing that makes me question is that LeBron James will be 3-4 in the NBA Finals if the Cavs win. But after I saw the Spurs lose with the shooting of 9 of 23 in the first quarter, I just don't think that it's a positive thing. And there's other reasons why I think LeBron can lose and be 2-5. Because this year, he was also 9 of 23 against Boston on 2-5. And 2-5 was the 101st day of the NBA season. So, I mean, it connects to Philadelphia. It's also 101 days after Philadelphia's 333rd anniversary. Golden State Warriors seem to be a lot more connected to Philadelphia. Even though the Cavs are connected, it's in a different type of way. So this makes me wonder if they're going to be 2-5 since it's connected to Philadelphia. 2-5 to the NBA Finals, also a span of 118 days. Remember, the Warriors beat the Cavs by 34 on 118, 34 games after LeBron was 9 of 23. LeBron's 9 of 23 games were also a span of 93 days apart, which usually is around sacrifice and whatnot. So, doesn't necessarily have to be, but 93 a lot of times around sacrifice. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, they all have ties to 93. Interesting is 3 months, 1 day though, LeBron is 31. I've talked a lot about 31 being a positive number, but I'm just not so sure. It's also 13 weeks and 2 days. Antonin Scalia equals 132. He died on a date numerology of 51. His name, the small way, equals 51, and he died. So, interesting. Anyway, this game then, where he's on 2-5, the Celtics won 104-103. We talked about the Warriors being connected to the 104. They even, tied the Bulls on April 10th, which is a lot like 10/4. So the Cavs score 103 points, which stands out as well because 923 to 1-4 is 103 days. That was the day that the Cavs became 23-9. Also the day that Elton Brand came out of retirement. It was also the Cavs' 49th game. Warriors equals 49. Interesting too, they stayed on 35 wins. Just talked about all the 35 in regards to Kobe. The next time that these two teams played was on 3-5, March 5th, the 65th day of the year. And the Cavs got their 44th win, which is interesting, because the Warriors all about the 44 this year. But interesting, it's connected to Philadelphia yet again. They also won 120-103. 103 in Gematria equals 83. That's connected to the 222 and Amtrak that I've talked about. 104 in Gematria equals 168, just like Cleveland Cavaliers, though. So, I mean, like I said, it's just a lot of coding to both teams. It's pretty crazy. But Also, in regards to 83, the day that the Cavs lost by 34 to the Warriors, it was the 83rd day of the NBA season even. I've also been trying to figure out what this 120 is all about. The Cavs beat the Lakers and the Kings by 120 in back-to-back nights or whatever 2 times this season. I talked about how it might have something to do with Moses, who died at the age of 120, and whatnot. Ton of other stuff, but he didn't make it to the Promised Land. He went there, but he didn't get to go in. So interesting. The Cavs have these 120s, but also the day after the Cavs lost by 34 to the Warriors, the next game the Warriors played was against the Bulls on 120. And they won with a total score of 219 points, just like back-to-back championships. And it gave the Bulls a 16-8 home record. Cleveland Cavaliers equals 168. Also, 120 to the NBA Finals, a span of 134 days. Just interesting because the Amtrak crashes. Chester one had 341 passengers. The Kansas one on 14/3. The 83rd Prime 431. Just interesting because it's all of the 3 same numbers that all can be rearranged to represent pi, 314. Even the video that ESPN gives you about this game on 3/5, the 65th day, they give you a 1 minute, 1 second video. And LeBron even says in here on the interview, well, we held them to 83 points after 3 quarters. Somebody mentions the 83, 65th day, they give you 101, all connected to Philadelphia. Also, if you go to Donald Trump's birthday and this 146 I keep talking about, a span of 101 days. Also, 101 days after 9/23 last year, the Cavs beat Orlando 104-79. It even gave Orlando a 7-9 away record. I've talked a lot about how the Orlando Magic are all connected to this as well in regards to Chicago Bulls. And also, both numbers connected to Golden State Warriors. Anyway, tonight, I guess, if the Warriors beat the streak, of the Bulls streak, they'll become 73-9, which I think they will. Because it just makes sense here. The 131st Prime is 739. Championship equals 131. Grizzlies equal 131. Tonight is the 104th day of the year. The number that the Warriors seem to be connected to in regards to back-to-back championships. If the Warriors win tonight, I just cannot see them losing in the finals. It just doesn't seem to make that much sense to me. If they lose, however, I think that might change my mind, because in the previous video I showed about how if they stay on 72, it connects with the 51 stuff that would go with the Cavs. So if they lose tonight, I'm really going to have to really look even harder, but I think if they win tonight, they're going to win the championship. That's just my opinion. I know there's other things, but this back-to-back theme really stands out a whole lot. Also tonight, if Curry makes a 3-pointer, it'll be the 152nd straight game of him making a 3-pointer. The word 79 equals 152, Pennsylvania equals 152, Easter Sunday equals 152. Today on ESPN, they had this up on the headline in regards to Kobe Bryant. It's right here. This was the headline on ESPN when I woke up this morning. They have this Kobe Bryant 1 minute 52 video. And then over in the corner they have Kobe and Jordan. 152. Curry is going to get his 152nd 3 tonight. 1 minute 52 seconds also just so happens to be 112 seconds. Chicago Bulls equals 112. And I mean, just interesting to show Michael Jackson right next to Kobe Bryant. I didn't even watch this video, but Michael Jackson was a big part of the Super Bowl Malcolm X type theme and whatnot. The 24, the X code. They even had Beyonce wear the same X outfit that Michael Jackson did at the Super Bowl when he did it. But then over here they show you the 8 and the 23. with Kobe and Michael Jordan, 8-23. I think I might have finally figured out what the whole point of that is, because they've shown them together a lot as 8 and 23. 823 is the 143rd prime. Like I'm talking about, 143 connects to the 522, just like the word Antonin, just like all of the train wrecks that connect to them numbers. The first in Kansas on 14/3. The other one was on 3/4 or 4/3, and it had 341 passengers. Draymond Green equals 143 in gematria. There was that one game where he said, "I am not a robot," or whatever. I am not a robot equals 143. Just tons of 143. David Blatt retired after coaching the Cavs for 143 games. 522 is his birthday. 522 this year is the 143rd day of the year. August 10th, normally the 222nd day of the year. That connects to Amtrak and whatnot. Also the day with 143 days left until the end of the year. So super interesting, the 222 and how it all connects. Interesting too, 522 is the 143rd day. We've talked a lot about presidential assassinations or political assassinations in regards to the 144. But remember, like, Abraham Lincoln got shot the day before that he died. He died 9 hours and 9 minutes after he got shot. He also got shot on 14/4, April 14th. So, I don't know, it makes me wonder if something's going to happen on the 143rd day of the year, and then maybe like Obama gets shot on that day and then dies the next day or something like that to make it fit with the 144. I really don't know. I just know that the 143 is super significant. Also, in regards to all of this back-to-back stuff and even the division, like the Civil War type stuff, we have the Democrats and the Republicans, and the Democratic and Republican national conventions this year just so happened to be in Cleveland and then also in Philadelphia. So I thought maybe, it's so coded to Philadelphia, like Abraham Lincoln even shot with a Philadelphia Derringer. So it also makes me wonder if a lot of this coding is connected to these national conventions where Barack Obama, I would assume would even be at this one in Philadelphia from July 25th to the 28th. If you go from the Kansas train wreck to the beginning of the Republican National Convention, it's a span of 4 months and 4 days. If you write out the word 44, it equals 144. If you write out April 4th, it equals 144. Obama's the 44th president. Trump and Hillary Clinton and Sanders and whatnot, they're all running to be the 44th person to be the president. 44 connected to a lot of deaths. Also interesting, July 18th is 18/7187, the murder code. If you go from the Kansas train derailment to the beginning of the Democratic one, it's a span of 4 months, 11 days. The word assassin equals 411. JFK died on 411 Elm Street. Also, a span of 133 days. If you did this as a date, that's the day that Pope Francis became the Pope, 13/3. So who knows, We talked about all this before in regards to the 51. I didn't mention Washington, D.C., a lot of times referred to as the 51st state. Also Puerto Rico. So interesting with all the 51 stuff. Supposedly, the land where Washington, D.C. is now was even originally owned by a guy named Francis Pope. This was the first place that he went to on his trip to the United States, Washington, D.C., then New York, then Philadelphia. So interesting, just some days to watch out for. There have been Cleveland and Philadelphia. There's been a lot of foreshadowing of Cleveland versus Philadelphia. And I honestly think that's what it's all about. It's just, it's connected to all of these other events. So we'll see what happens tonight and all these games and whatnot. Yeah, whatever. Sorry it's so long. There's just so much information to go back on. But have a good one.